Blessings. This is Morning Thoughts with Teresa Beam. Imagine an ignorant American encountering Gandhi in prison in the 1940s who had no idea who the Indian activist was. "Put on some clothes, man. Eat some beef. You wouldn't be so skinny if you ate right," the American stated when he saw Mahatma for the first time. "I fast for my country that it may be free of imperialistic tyranny," Gandhi replied. "You're an idiot. How can fasting do anything for your country?" The American began to pepper Gandhi with questions, having no idea his background or history. For the American to understand and fully appreciate Gandhi, he would have to know not only the background of South Africa in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, but India and England's history as well, and the history leading up to World War II. He would have to know something about Hinduism and the caste system. Gandhi would have to explain his philosophy of civic protest by nonviolence. You see, to understand and not make false assumptions about Gandhi, if one was to encounter him in a prison, one would have to know Gandhi's history and the context of his life. It is impossible to walk into the middle of anyone's or any family's story and judge it from that view. In the same way, you can't open up a large book in the middle and judge the story. And that's what I see in all the debates I see between Catholics and Protestants. The Protestants usually invite Catholics to defend a doctrine that the Protestants believe is unbiblical. Some Protestants believe us to be working our way to heaven, Christ conjurers who re-crucify Christ at each Mass, Bible-hating, Mary and idol and Pope worshippers, murderers of those who disagree with us, and they start at either Vatican II or the scholarly Protestants study the Council of Trent, and they think they know Catholicism. And I've come to the conclusion that Protestants debating Catholics is very much like the example of the American questioning Gandhi or the person judging a book when they begin in the middle. You can't start talking about Vatican II without understanding the Council of Trent, and you can't understand the Council of Trent without understanding the humanism and scholasticism earlier, and you can't understand those philosophies unless you understand the Crusades and the Inquisition and the schism with the East, going back further past the Carolingian Reform, past the Donatist heresy and the Arian heresy, back even to the making of the Bible in the 4th century and Constantine and the persecution of the early church. Then you got to land squarely back in the apostolic age with the Council of Jerusalem in the middle of the 1st century. And I would argue that for the gospel of the kingdom of God that Christ established before going to heaven to be thoroughly understood, one must touch briefly on the Garden of Eden, where Eve would bring forth the Messiah who would crush the head of the serpent, and then skip to the Davidic kingdom even before starting the New Covenant story. Catholic doctrine and theology is not going to make sense to a Protestant unless they know the Catholic story. It can only be understood in the context of its epic history, and that cannot begin in the middle somewhere. Here's the problem. The truth is, people like to debate. There is a satisfaction some debaters get from the challenge of defending their faith and their God. Because there are no more jousting tournaments, many men enjoy the verbal ones. This is not a criticism, by the way. Some people learn from point and counterpoint. I'm one of them, and that's why I've read or listened to hundreds of debates. And I take notes and then go research what each one of the debaters claimed. Catholic apologists and defenders need to think about the best and most effective way of explaining the Catholic faith. And I'm not saying that we should stop debating, but we need to start insisting if Protestants really are interested in understanding the Catholic faith, we need to go back to the beginning. Start creating debate resolutions that take the Protestant back to the very beginning of our story, such as, does the Catholic Church go back to St. Peter? Lots of Protestants believe that the Catholic Church started at the Emperor Constantine in the 4th century. Another one would be, what is the gospel that Jesus spoke about? Or what is the kingdom of heaven? Something that's going to be established at the second coming? Or did Jesus establish it at his first coming? I'm sure the apologists can come up with much better questions than I can think of. The story of the Catholic Church is the greatest story ever told. St. John's introductory words in his Apocalypse best describes the Church's story with, "This is the revelation of Jesus Christ." Protestants need to hear the Catholic story, the whole story, and nothing but the story. So help us God. Morning Thoughts is brought to you by Sunbeam Productions, SONBEEM Productions.com. Have a terrific day.